Salsa Show. This is Don Jorge El Alacran. Today is January the 21st, and the 20th was a big day because uh, President elect became President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We have a new commander in chief now in charge, and he is cleaning house. One of the biggest things he did, because he signed a lot of proclamations and stuff. One of the biggest things he did was free the J6ers.
That's
And
right.
here at the Chips and Salsa Studios, we have three, one on Zoom. Jeff Zink's son is on Zoom with us, and we have two J6ers that came to visit us. They're our guests today, and they're going to tell you their horrifying story of how they were treated as terrorists and the crimes they committed. I mean, they're going to tell you everything. They were freed yesterday from the jails. I think you were in Stanford here
in Safford.
And then you were where?
Also
Phoenix.
In Phoenix?
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were in jails here, and they were freed yesterday when Trump signed the pardons for the J6ers.
Right. And it was just yesterday was a really big, amazing day.
Yes.
I'm really excited that we were able to make it to that day. It was a lot of hard work from so many people. But before we jump into all that, I do want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors, Canaloo Air, Pure 5 Extraction, One Team, One Dream Foundation, AZ Injection Perfection, and National Automotive Repair. They are our very faithful sponsors. We appreciate them. We love being able to do the show where we can bring you timely content, and there's nothing more timely than this. It was just last evening that Trump signed all of those. He signed a bunch of executive orders, and he signed pardons for all of the J6ers.
Yes.
And so the first thing that somebody told me is, well, you're going to get one on your podcast for tomorrow, right? And I said, that is exactly what we should do. So I reached out to the Zinks because I knew that they had been asking around for people to help, in this effort to make sure that the J6ers, when they were free, that they had rides, that they had a place to go, because people have been completely displaced. Our J6ers are not, this is not their hometown. This is not where they live. This is just where they ended up. And so we're very, very grateful to have David and Sean right here today with us to talk about their experiences, what it was like, and just them being here in studio is really, Donald Trump's promises made, promises kept. And we have Ryan Zink here over Zoom. And the same thing, Ryan has been going through this. All of these men were in DC on January 6th in 2021. And they're going to tell us about how it all went down. So let's start with that. You mentioned before, you guys, that this was your first time in DC. So Sean, let's start with you and just tell us about January 6th, 2021. How did it start for you? You weren't there alone, but you were armed. So tell us about those things.
Okay, well, first I was just in my hometown in Auburn, California, and I was a contractor. I owned McHugh Construction and Electrical. And when Trump said, come to DC, it's going to be wild. Well, this is the last thing in mind I ever had, but I wanted to be there to support Donald Trump because we'd watched all the litigation go on for the fraud, for one thing, and nothing was litigated. It was actually shot down over and over and over. The president didn't have standing. The state didn't have standing. The voter didn't have standing. Well, if they don't, well, then who does? So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go. And as soon as he made the announcement, I got online, started making reservations. For the 4th, 5th, and the 6th, I wanted to stay out there. And then I started asking around if a friend of mine wanted to go. And then my mom said that she would like to go as well. And after what I had just witnessed over the summer with Antifa and with the last rally that was in DC, someone had got stabbed. And by God, I'm not going to have my mom go there with me and not be able to protect my mother against these crazy. They're the ones that are the fascists, really. These Antifa people, they don't realize it. But so yeah, we had bear spray delivered to the hotel where I was going to be staying.
You sent some bear spray in a package to the hotel. So you have,
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, so you could have at least a little.
Because you can't fly with that.
Right.
Right. Mhm.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's not illegal, and it's not illegal to have in DC. And really on the Capitol, they don't say that you can't have it, because it's a little known secret that reporters and people carry pepper spray on them at these places for protection. Because
Yeah.
let's face it, DC's a crazy place.
Mhm.
So anyways, fast forward to January 6th or January 5th, we show up, and I forget the place, the name of the place we were staying at, but it was near the George Washington. And we went out a little bit. All the restaurants were closed. Mariel Bowser closed down all the restaurants for us, so we had to eat at the George. So we went from our hotel over to the George, and everything seemed normal. And the next day, we wake up early in the morning and we start going down Constitution Avenue towards the Ellipse and 14th. And we met a man there who was with a couple other guys that called me over. I had a bullhorn with me because I felt a certain way and I wanted to make it known. And he told me I had a loud voice, and this was the plan. We're going to the Capitol at 1 p.m. no matter what. You need to get people there. You tell people this, tell people that. Well, this happened to be Ray Epps. And
Wow.
so I didn't know that, but we knew that there was a permit to be there, and we knew that we weren't doing anything wrong. So yeah, of course I got people to go to the Capitol. And looking back at it, I feel a little guilty about that because of what happened at the Capitol that day. But it was all in good love and in good intention. And so I wanted to be there to support Donald Trump, like I said, and I wanted to be there to support our elected officials to contest the election on the House floor, because each
Right. We thought that Pence was going to stand up for us.
not only that, but each congressman from each state was going to get 2 hours to present evidence on the House floor for the whole world to see. Well, finally, thank God.
Mhm.
That's what we wanted. So their whole argument that we wanted to stop what was going on that day is false on its face. But they had the media on their side, and of course, that's what they said. But January 6th, so they get us all at the Capitol, and it's like a crab trap. If you've ever been there, you go past Peace Circle, you got to walk up this walkway, and then it opens up to the Lower West Terrace, and you got people packing in behind you. So once you're there, you can't back out because you're crammed in there now. And then they start.
You just have to keep going forward at that point.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Up to the bike racks.
Up to the bike racks. Right. And one officer said, "This is where we want to be." Other officers were a little more frenzied and didn't know what to do. And then we filled into the Lower West Terrace, and then they started throwing flash grenades at us, and tear gas. And then they started shooting pepper balls and rubber bullets from an elevated position. They started unleashing on us, and I ended up using bear spray
to clear the crowd away from you and your mom.
Right. My mother was actually hit by either a mace ball or a rubber bullet in her back. We were just holding each other, not engaging in the crowd around us, because it started getting really crazy. And so what I learned later is how that all started was this man named Landon Copeland, a known and admitted Antifa member, had pushed Chris Quaglin into the police officers to instigate, to agitate the crowd, agitate the officers. And that's what happened. Looking back at video footage, I was able to determine that's what happened. But I didn't know, because we were just holding each other, and it was a fight or flight moment where I just witnessed Joshua Black get shot in the face with a rubber bullet, and his face just exploded like a starfish, and there was blood everywhere, all over the ground. And I think that they'd already hauled someone else off on a bike rack who had a heart attack. It was either Benjamin Phillips or Kevin Greasom, one of the two. And this was going a completely different direction than I'd thought what was going to happen. So after my mom cried out, I sprayed up in the air. I told her to get behind a little wall. It was like a little stem wall. And It's nothing like what you see on the video footage, whatever video footage is out there. Although the video footage that I'm describing, you do see this. But while you're on the ground, it's nothing like what you would think, because it's pure chaos. You lose somebody that's 3 feet next to you. You can't determine what's really going on. And so, yeah, that's the decision I made. I didn't have the intent to harm officers that day. I didn't touch an officer. Nobody was harmed. Nobody had to decontaminate because of my use of bear spray. But it was like one of those helpless moments. And I was also charged with assault on an officer for touching a bike rack. I was also charged with assault on an officer for touching a big Trump sign that came over our head, that hit my mom, and she fell down on the stairs, and I picked her up. And then the sign was coming back towards us. I touched the sign, and that's assault. They said that I tried to orchestrate people and tell them to ram the sign into these people, which is not true. I just said, yeah, put it up there. This is Trump country, because it is. And it said Trump on it, and I thought they were going to flip
Stand
it
it up
Yeah,
to
and
show.
show them like,
Mhm.
no, we want Trump. But that wasn't the case. Apparently it's assault. So, but Ray Epps was on the back of that,
And he was charged, right?
Oh, no,
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 he
absolutely not.
wasn't.
But
He
they
was
cut
Antifa.
Ray Epps he used to be an oath keeper,
Oath
here
keeper.
in Arizona, actually. Yeah, but so funny story, 60 Minutes cut him out of the footage of him behind the sign, pushing it into the police officers. But you could tell by our body language, my body language and his is completely different. I'm kind of just getting it away from me, and he's behind there pushing it into the police officers. But I didn't know when you're in the middle of something like a setup like this, because that's exactly what it was. You don't know what's going on until after the fact. But I ended up leaving with my mother after I got sprayed in the face, and she did as well, got sprayed in the face
Mhm.
for no reason. She just said this is a peaceful protest, and I have footage of Officer Tao coming up and just spraying her in the face and then walking away, not making an arrest, not saying that we're doing anything wrong, just to harm her.
Mm.
After my contacts started melting to my eyes, literally, uh, she helped me back to the hotel room, and that was the most painful shower I'd ever taken in my entire life. And um, the rest is really history, literally. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay,
I
that was your
didn't.
J6 day.
That was it. I
You're
didn't go
leading up to
inside.
it. Mhm.
Yeah,
And you were just before that, you're just your average Trump supporter guy before that, right?
pretty much.
Yeah.
And so they searched
I'm
you
ultra
out.
MAGA though, by the way.
Yes.
And so they searched you
Ultra
out. They
MAGA.
found you. They searched you out. They found you and arrested you.
You're right. So thanks for bringing that up, because that's another way that they violated people's rights is they used this section 702 of the FISA court and geofencing on people. And
Mhm.
you can't use 702 on American citizens. And they didn't bring that up. They didn't tell anybody. And
Right, because when we tried to say with the mules and election integrity stuff, and we were trying to say that you could tell by people's phones who they were, that's dropping off all these ballots. They were saying, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that." They were able to do it to you guys, though.
right.
But they
That's
couldn't
just
do it.
one.
Yeah.
That's just one aspect of it. The geofencing is one thing, but actually going in and looking at people's communications, um, and recording them, and looking at their emails without a warrant or with a rubber stamp of the FISA court, it's different
So
than
you lose
actually
all your
having.
freedoms.
Correct. It's a Fourth Amendment violation.
Mhm.
And not only did they entrap us, then they violated our rights to procure. One of the reasons they use the FISA court is to find out who their assets were, official and unofficial, get them out of the way,
Right.
and then also go and find out who's going to fit the narrative and who they're going to hit hardest the first. And that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. So yeah, so they found me through facial recognition, and they decided, because off of a personal text that I sent to somebody else, that I'd probably be a good candidate. I think that's what it was to go after. But when you look at the footage, when you look at the totality of my actions that day, and really everybody else, I mean, most of the people I know that were charged with violence, they weren't actually attacking officers. They were more than likely protecting somebody else or just stopping a baton from hitting them.
Hmm.
And by the way, he did not have a beard and he did not have long hair until he went to jail. They didn't let him cut his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David,
he's
you
totally
were
different.
actually charged with assaulting an officer.
Yes.
Not for grabbing a bike rack, but for what? What did you do?
Well, they had me for grabbing a bike rack, which they considered a weapon,
Okay.
Wow.
and they also got me for assault on an officer. Uh, Started in the bike rack where people were lined up holding the bike rack, just watching the event, waiting for the president to show up, and the the officers that came in riot gear, they started appearing, and so people started asking, hey, why are you guys afraid of us? Why are you afraid? And they kept getting closer with shields, and so people, including myself, we had our hands on the bike rack just holding it, and the officers started hitting our fingers with the bike racks, agitating the people. And as people started getting angry, the police started pushing the bike racks into the people, which is clearly shown on video,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to see through the motion of discovery, watching video, that my attorneys were of evidence used against me, where they claimed I was using the bike rack as a weapon, where it was clearly the officers pushing the bike rack at the people. So there was a tug of war with that bike rack, which I was caught on video as well with others wrestling with that bike rack, and they were claiming that I was trying to open the gate so the people can go in through the east end of the Capitol. So their case was that I was part of this organized group to storm the Capitol, and the prosecution painted me as one of many using distracting officers to get into the Capitol, which the people ended up going in.
Did you go inside?
Yes,
You did get
yes.
to go
We
inside.
we walked in. We walked in. Everybody started walking. We thought it was just a protest,
Mm-hmm.
and we started walking. We went up the stairs, and as we started going up the stairs, that's when we started seeing the gas being shot at us, and which caused a panic, because there was already a couple thousand people going up the stairs, and those stairs are very steep, and they're dangerous because you're up in an incline, so the people are going up. When they shot the gas, people panicked, so people were pushing forward and people were pushing back, so there were people getting crushed.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting crushed. So when I was seeing elderly people, they were suffocating and they were getting injured. um we were trapped, so people started, you know I'm going to say about a few yards up ahead, I saw the door, and then I saw these guys in black with jackets come with backpacks, and they had masks, and they showed up with hammers and they started busting the windows. Well, those weren't Trump supporters. It was organized.
Mm-hmm.
People started yelling at them, "What are you doing? Why are you destroying the Capitol?" And so what I didn't realize, what I at the moment, was they were turning this into something more than even a protest. They were turning it into an assault in the Capitol. And so as I was going through the motion of discovery with my
You
lawyers,
mentioned you were also close to Ashley Babbitt.
yes, she was right in front of me, and we went up the stairs. We went into the Capitol, walked around. It was like a tour.
Mm-hmm.
There was no violence. Nobody was destroying anything. Uh, we went up the stairs, and at first I didn't know this was Ashley Babbitt until the motion of discovery. They had the videos, and I saw her. I went left with a group, and she went right with another group. And about 30 seconds later, that's when we heard a gunshot, and people started running. And I heard, "Hey, they're shooting at us. They shot a person over there." So I ran down the stairs going.
What were you thinking
Well,
to hear
I
that?
thought they were going to kill us because, I thought the snipers were going to come in and they had the excuse to kill us. That's what I
Mhm.
really thought.
Was this after those guys smashed the windows?
Yeah, they had smashed the window, and then somebody from the inside opened the door, and that's how we were able to go in.
Oh, okay. So
And by that time, the only reason I went in was because I couldn't breathe. They had gas all, and that's why people were going in.
Like
So
seeking shelter.
seeking
almost.
shelter, yeah, and also finding a way out because we couldn't
Go back.
go back. There was no
Right.
way
That's what he
going
said.
back.
You could
People were
only move
coming.
forward.
Yeah, by that time there was already several thousand of people going in. So then we saw these snipers coming in, pointing ARs at us. So we hit the ground. I hit the ground, and everybody hit the ground. And then they searched my pockets, and they said, "Okay, get up, put your hands on your head, and walk out." They walked us out, walked us to the rotunda, and then they left us there. They go, "Okay," and we looked around, and everything was calm. People were in there touring again, and officers were smiling. People were talking with the officers.
So you thought it
and
was over.
I thought it was over. I thought it was like nothing. It was nothing. Once the stairway cleared up, I started walking out. I said, I better get out of here. Look for my brothers. I went with my brother and my nephew. We got lost. So I found them, and my brother was already in the hotel. We stayed in a hotel across the street in the Capitol. We went back into the Capitol, and we were happy. We were like, hey, wow, that was amazing what happened. The people actually were in the Capitol. We didn't think it was anything serious. And I still didn't know that Ashley Babbitt was killed. We heard that someone had been shot, but I didn't know that that someone had died.
you knew the person?
Oh, I didn't know her.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't know her. So when we turned on the news in the Capitol, we're in there, in the Capitol Hill Hotel where we were staying, we started seeing the news. They were painting a whole different picture. They were
Mhm.
calling it an assault, an insurrection. Then we heard about a woman being killed, and it was a complete different version of what really happened. And that's when it really hit me that, hey, we're in trouble. When we started hearing what they were putting on TV wasn't what had happened. And they were putting video footage of violence, which I didn't see. The violence that they were putting. They
Mhm.
were selective hand picking footage. So we stayed there for another day, walked around, and by that time they were already putting a perimeter around the Capitol. The National Guard was there. They put the perimeter around, and as they were putting the perimeter around the hotel, we started noticing that the FBI were arresting Trump supporters in the hotel. And I told my brother and my nephew, we better get out of here. We better fly out of here because we're gonna get caught here. Something's gonna happen. So we flew back to El Paso. I went back to work. I have a small business, and started watching the news again, and they were promising to go after every insurrectionist, as we were called, responsible for this, accusing us of actually killing officers. That's when the subject of murder of an officer came up, which turned out to be false, but that's what people believed. So I ended up staying out there for about a year and 7 months
At El Paso.
in El Paso, doing, working. And when I'm driving down I-10, which is the interstate locally, I look up and there's a billboard, and it's an advertisement by the Department of Justice offering rewards for anybody who comes with information. It was, I think it was like a $10,000 reward if they turned in
A
a
J6er.
J6er, and they were
Wow.
advertising it. And sure enough, they received tips on me and my brother and my nephew. And I found out who the people were. They were people who knew us,
Wow.
that turned us in. They would have never even known we were there because there were
That's
so
right.
many people. But this person
Turned
we
you in.
thought we can, was a friend. They wanted to make money.
Wow.
Wow.
And they turned us in. And so the FBI, I didn't know that we were already under surveillance. I started noticing at home. And my wife and we started noticing cars parked in the streets, weird cars. Cars would stop and they take pictures with cell phones at us. And I started observing that. There's a park across the street, and I used to take walks every morning with my wife at about 5 in the morning. Still dark. It was October, and I noticed that there were these patriots exercising. They would put up an American flag, and I told my wife, "Hey, that's good. These guys are lifting up bricks, exercising." And but what I noticed was a lot of them, it appeared like a front, because not all of them were in shape. There were a couple of them in shape, but a lot of them weren't.
Mm.
And one of them approaches me and he says, "Hey, we're part of this patriot group. We're Christians. You want to join our exercise group? We get together every Tuesday, have coffee." And I found it odd why, there's not very many friendly people that just come at you at 5 a.m. to try to recruit you into their group.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told my wife looked at me like, "Wow." And I said, "You know what? Something's going to happen. They're going to raid us." I knew it. So I started preparing for the raid, letting my wife know if they come in, just lay on the ground with the kids. And because I had already known the way they were raiding other J6ers, I had been seeing some videos.
What are the ages of your children?
I have a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old, and so they ended up coming and raiding us. It was a pre-dawn raid on a Wednesday school day. I was getting my kids ready for school. My wife was getting ready for work. So was I. My 16-year-old comes from her bedroom upstairs. She says, "Daddy, there's soldiers outside with guns." And I go, "Soldiers?"
Jeez.
And when I heard that, I was thinking soldiers. So when I looked at the windows were bright white, which it was still pre-dawn. The sun hadn't come up. And every single window in my home was just bright white.
So it had lights like that.
Fluorescent.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my phone rang, and it was the FBI, and they said, "David, we're here to get you." And I said, "Okay." I was calm. I knew what it was. They go, "Come out, keep the phone in your hand and come out." So I go, "Yes." I told my wife, "You stay inside. This is for me," which I thought. I opened up the door. I turned my back, kept the phone up, and they told me, "Put the phone on the ground." I go, "I'm not going to put the phone on the ground. I'll keep it in my hand on speaker." I didn't want to even give them an inch. That way they can kill me, because my senses felt that they were going to kill me.
Mm.
So I went backwards, got on my knees, and they put some straps on me. They used some.
Right.
They didn't even use cuff. They used
Those zip tie
zip
things?
ties.
Mm-hmm.
They put zip ties on me, and then they lifted me up and put me in a van. And when I looked around, there were snipers everywhere. There was at least 30 of them, and they were in military fatigues. They had laser pointed rifles. They had an armored vehicle pointed at my garage with a spike in the front, ready to tear it down. It was the so as they had me in the car, there were two agents that I found out it was the terrorist task force made up of the FBI, Homeland Security. There was each of the officers. So those two officers, they had me in the car, and then they told me, they go, "I'm sorry that we had to do this. It wasn't our idea. We were gonna originally just arrest you, but this is what had to be done. It was beyond us." By that time, I looked, and it was FBI, Homeland Security, Border Patrol was there. They pulled out my girls and my family at gunpoint. My kids. When I saw that, they had rifles on my girls and the kids, and they didn't have to do that.
No, they
So
didn't.
yeah, they put them in a van, and they took me to headquarters to the FBI. And at that moment, I thought that I was gonna be disappeared. I didn't even think I was gonna go through formal, regular court proceedings. I thought I was going through, because I was gonna go to Guantanamo Bay
Yeah,
or
I was say
something.
Guantanamo.
Because they took me to the FBI center over there, and it's got gates, and they put me in there. They didn't even try to question me. It was They didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. And then they took me to the county jail. And I was surprised. Okay, I'm going to the county jail. This is different. I went into the county jail. That's when I was able to call my wife. I called her. I go, "Where are you?" And she goes, "I'm at a park. I'm just here. They won't let me get near the house. I'm here with the girls." And she goes, "They're all over the house. They're searching it. They have forensic teams, computer teams, all that. And the
Wow.
media's there." And I go, "Oh, the media's there. Wow." Yeah. And so she says, "You're all over the news. They have you all over the news. That's
Wow.
you're in every channel here locally." I was the only J6er arrested in my hometown of El Paso, Texas. So I was thinking, okay, they're not gonna give me a bond. This is something big. Turns out I get a bond. It's only $10,000. And I said, "Okay, well, you go ahead and bail
All
me out."
that.
She bailed me out with $1,000. I'm out. And so my neighbors are freaked out. They're looking at me like, "What the hell happened? You're out again." And I'm out. And they're still running my name on the news. And that's when neighbors started realizing, you know what, this is political.
Mm-hmm.
And I got approached by some neighbors who used to be Democrats because they came across the street. "Hey, what they did was messed up." It completely flipped them right there. They became Republican Trump supporters with that action right there. And I ended up on an ankle monitor and at
For
my
how
own
long?
for a year and a half fighting this case.
Wow.
And I had to fly at my own expense from El Paso to DC to face the court, which I decided to take a bench trial. And as I started realizing that fighting with a jury would just worsen my chances of ever seeing freedom, with the advice of my attorney, I was asked to, you're either going to see 8 years in prison or take a plea, and at the mercy of the judge, the most he can give you is 33 months, which is 2 years and 9 months. So at first I wanted to fight it. I'm going to take this to all the way. I'm not going to plead guilty to this because I knew they were bogus charges. I didn't assault no officer. And my attorney says, "Look, I've been a federal prosecutor for many years and I've never seen courts like this. I'm letting you know that these are dangerous courts for you and we cannot help you. I'm asking you, if you want to ever see your kids again, just plead guilty."
Wow.
And so after much
Wow.
thought, I decided I have to do it.
For your
I
family.
talked to my wife,
Mhm.
got prepared. I knew I was going to go to federal prison
Mm-hmm.
and ended up pleading guilty for 33 months, which he did.
How long did you stay?
Oh, I got sentenced to 6.5 years.
And you stayed how many years in
Just under 4. Yeah.
wow.
Okay, thanks. We're going to go ahead and take a break just quick to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk with Ryan Zink as soon as we get back. So stick around.
This is wild.
Ready to take your craft to the next level? Imagine faster extractions, purer products, and more profits. Sounds good, right? At Pure 5 Extraction, we've revolutionized cannabis extraction with our game-changing technology. No solvents, no heat, just the cleanest, most natural process on the market. Whether you're a boutique grower or a large-scale operation, Pure 5 has the tools to elevate your business worldwide. Visit pure5extraction.com today. Pure 5 Extraction, because your plants...
Ugh, this air conditioner isn't working again. I'm roasting in here.
Hi there. I'm from Canaloo Air. I'm here to fix your air conditioner.
Canaloo Air is a family-owned HVAC company that specializes in residential air conditioning and heating. We offer a variety of services, including installation, replacement, repair, and maintenance. Canaloo Air. We keep your home comfortable all year round. Call us today for a free quote. Why Canaloo Air? Here are the top 5 reasons. Family-owned and operated. We are committed to high-quality service. Our technicians use the highest quality parts and equipment. The business is a member of the Home Advisor Elite Service Award program. And finally, we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Visit our website, canilooair.com, or call us today 602-609-3488.
At La Mesa and Rec Van, get the right RV at the right price right now. This new Winnebago Solus Pocket is newly discounted to just $476 per month. La Mesa and Rec Van, the world's largest motor.
Window tint isn't just about keeping a low profile anymore. Introducing XPEL Prime XR Plus, the most technologically advanced automotive window film ever created. Prime XR Plus features multi-layer nanoparticle technology designed to provide unrivaled performance. The unique multi-layer construction blocks up to 98% of infrared heat, keeping your vehicle's interior cool no matter the weather. Prime XR Plus also provides superior UV rejection so you and your passengers stay safe from harmful cancer-causing rays. In the past, the only option was installing a darker shade. With Prime XR Plus, you can reap the benefits from our lightest tint to our darkest without compromising performance for visibility. With a digital world, clear communication is key. Unlike other high IR blocking window films, Prime XR Plus won't interfere with cell, radio, or data signal transmissions. Performance at its best. It's prime time. XPEL Prime XR Plus. Ask for it by name today.
Welcome back to the Chips and Salsa Show. This is Don Jorge El Alacran, and we're interviewing the J6ers. And on the Zoom, we have Ryan Zink, and I'm going to turn it over to Doña Cheryl Rosado.
So yeah, we're here. We're talking with the free J6ers today, and it's been enlightening and sobering. And I'm really glad to have Ryan. We've been praying for you for a long time. You by name, and J6ers that we didn't know just blanketly. But Ryan, it's good to talk to you. Can you tell us then about your experience on January 6, 2021?
Yeah, well, absolutely, and thank y'all for having us on. It's good to see that some American infidels can finally get some recognition after the recovery that we've been bestowed upon us. And I'd like to thank President Trump for promises made, promises kept. For getting us out. Man, January 6th for me was exactly what the DOJ said. I went there with full intention to overthrow the government because I was upset about everything. Yeah, no, that's not what happened at all. So January 6th for me was about my father's campaign. We had we were brand new into the congressional cycle. My father had just been healed with the injuries that he was dealing with, and he was needing some help getting his campaign off the ground. Well, then Donald Trump had started talking about what was going on with the politics of the country and how the election was being stolen and some other things. I heard a few things here and there, but I was primarily not a political person before January 6th until at least until November, and shortly before that when my dad was thinking about running for office. And so my dad comes to me and he asks me, he says, hey, do you want to go to the to the rally with me? And I've never been to a political rally before. I'm actually in Phoenix at his house because I'm injured. I was on workman's comp at the time because I had been hit by a high driver in Lubbock, Texas, where I live. And I had a severe neck and shoulder injury that my insurance had lapsed on. So I was up there getting some treatment, and I was like, no, I really don't want to go. I think I'll just probably hang out if you want to go. So then my dad and my stepmom were like, hey, we can pay for this. Like, we can pay for you to go. And I was thinking, I was like, hey, free trip,
Yeah.
spend some time with my dad, go check something out. And so in the background of my life, prior to, being a business owner and now an American infidel, there is a portion of my life where I was a sports broadcaster, and I worked for a local university here in the town that I live in, and I would cover all of the games. And I had no other media experience outside of doing sports broadcasting, which is kind of like revving people up, like getting people into the moment and talking about, the stuff that's going on around you. So I was like, hey, this could be pretty good. We could get some B-roll footage. We took pictures for business cards, all that kind of stuff before we left. And then, like a day or two later, we jump on a plane and we're in Washington, D.C. And we stayed with some family that were up there. We didn't stay in Washington, D.C., so we had to take the metro to go in to D.C. And I remember we get up and it's super cold, and it was kind of surreal because I went to Washington, D.C. one time with my dad when I was really, really little. So I don't remember the trip very much. I wouldn't say I was super little, but I was definitely middle school, maybe the beginnings of middle school. So I didn't really remember the trip that much. And, when we get out, Washington, D.C., despite all of the corruption and, just a complete, I'm just going to say it, just the satanic realm that has been held over that city under this last administration. The city itself is beautiful. The architecture, and, we, as soon as we get off.
What happened? Did we lose the signal? Okay, I will. Is he coming back? Okay. I'm saying we could run to someone else.
Are we back?
Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry. We, this is not an unusual thing for me. They don't like my story getting out. This is, a constant thing. So, all right. Anyway, so before we cut out, on everything, we get into Washington, D.C. We take the metro in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful city. It's the architecture is absolutely amazing. The people of the last 4 years have absolutely not been. And, for such a beautiful city, it's just rampant with corruption. But we get off the metro, there's steam coming out of, the sewer grates and drainage. And it just paints this, beautiful image. And the day that started out, it was absolutely freezing cold. And we went to the Washington Monument area. And by the time that we had got there, I think we got there at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was just surreal to see. There was already 20,000 people there, and the sun is coming up. And I don't think it really dawned on me at this point, even, as we progress later into the morning, of, how many people were actually at the Ellipse and at, Freedom Plaza, where the president would later speak. I saw Diamond and Silk as we were walking in up there, and, we stopped in there and we got some pictures. And one of the things that just absolutely blew my mind about, because remember, I wasn't a very political person at the time, so I didn't think that, this was going to be that big of a deal. The largest number of people that I had ever, seen gathered in one place was a rock concert. And we get up into the, in between the stage and the Washington Monument, and there's just this little platform, and I jumped up on top of that and started taking pictures, and that's when it really hit me. There are not just 10,000 people here, not 20,000 people here. There are hundreds of thousands of people in Washington, D.C. for Donald Trump. And, I start snapping off these photos, and we decide we're going to go into, we decide that we're going to try to get into the speakers area to, to go get some, some up close pictures of and because I'd never taken photos of a living president. I met Bill Clinton one time in the early 2000s, and it was a really, really awkward, weird experience, just because of who he is and his demeanor and the way that he carries himself. And so we couldn't get into that area because the Secret Service was concerned with my backpack, because contrary to what the Department of Justice says, I was a journalist on the ground that day working with a congressional candidate who had hired me to do a specific job for him. And, so I had my laptop, my my hard drive, some SD cards, my camera, all of my different lenses, and a lunch and a couple other things. Well, the Secret Service is not budging. They're like, you're not coming in with that. You can't do anything with it. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And we decided that we were going to go eat some lunch. So, unbeknownst at the time, we had lunch in front of a building that I would become very familiar with, 333 Constitution Avenue, the E. Barrett Prettyman Jackson Courthouse in Washington, D.C. And then we made our way up to the west side of the Capitol. And it's probably, I guess, about 11:30 about the time that we went up there, because Dad had an interview with the Epic Times. So not only had we established the fact that he was, which this evidence was never allowed at trial either, it was deemed to be irrelevant. Not only did we have like an interview lined up with the Epic Times, but we had, like I said, scheduling to get there to talk to these people. And I covered that. I was posting on Facebook all through the day talking about how, certain people were saying that if Mike Pence doesn't certify the election, he could be arrested. And that if he certifies the election, he could be arrested. There was this large venue of things that I'm talking to people about. And I interviewed probably, I think, 6 people during the course of the day, just trying to get, an idea of why people were there. What they had come across, that kind of thing. And then we wrap up that interview and we start to make our way around to the left side of the building if you're facing the Supreme Court. And at this portion of the day, this is where the DOJ fervently and absolutely has lied in 100% of January 6 cases, saying that the entire perimeter had these signs on it that say, no entry, whatever. Because where the scaffolding was being built, there were signs that said, no entry, whatever the signs said. And they're not very big. I mean, like, to the murdered Ashley Babbitt that's sitting on my shirt, this is about the size of those signs. And they're not, every 2 foot or something like that all the way around the perimeter. They were only in that location. And so, of course, the DOJ has a nice picture of me standing next to one of those signs and saying, well, he knew that this was a restricted area, blah, blah, blah. And that's just not the case. So we, at this point, so both of us are, my dad is still relatively frail from his injuries at this time that he had with, some of the stuff that he had going on with his neck and CTE and a couple of other things. And so we had to go and we took a rest on the east side of the Capitol, kind of where the grassy knoll is. Over there in front of the Supreme Court, and we sat there for a while, and then as we start getting closer to about 1:10, somewhere around there, we head over to there were these green light plants that were set up on the east side over the visitor center. And we go over there and I start, talking to people and interviewing people on the east side and finding out, well, then a guy on a bullhorn is talking to the Capitol Police on that side. And one of the Capitol Police officers takes the bullhorn from him and he says, hey, we know that you guys have permits to protest in here, and directs his body language to back behind where the barricades are. He says, we're talking to our supervisors. We're going to try to get you guys in there and upstairs. And we're, and so this huge roar goes out across the crowd. And so this particular video was actually kept out of like 40 or 50 other cases as deemed as either sensitive material or irrelevant. And we were finally able to get this footage into my case because, you have a Capitol Police officer that's telling people, like, we know that you have permits. You're supposed to be allowed to go in here. And we're going to try to get you upstairs. Well, they never specified what upstairs was because there were multiple sets of staircases that were over there. And there's also upstairs inside the building where Congress is fixing to certify this. And I didn't know any of this at the time. This is like 4 years of being absolutely just brutally sabotaged by the DOJ. You learn a thing or two about congressional proceedings and stuff like that. And so Right after this happens, there's a little bit of a commotion to the left of us, and we can't really tell what's going on. And I'm trying to like lean out over the railing to find out what's going on. And they're bringing another railing, and there's like one guy who's like yelling and stuff. But we really can't see what's happening. There's 400 people between us and them, and all of a sudden the barricades open up, and the police officer that is directly in front of us uses both of his hands like this in a motioning manner and is saying, come on, come on. And they open up all the barricades and people start coming in. Well, then we look to our right over towards the side that we had come in, facing away from the Supreme Court now on the east side towards the building. And there are hundreds of people that are just pouring into the plaza area over the top of the visitor center. And so we stand there for a couple of minutes, just sitting there and are just like, what is going on? What is all of this? And so my dad, we had a conversation that was right there, and they were like, well, should we go in there? And I was like, I guess so. They let us in. And so this is when the theatrics for the day started, because, it really kind of set in, like, hey, this is a protest. And so I started making posts that are similar to what I would make in a sports environment, where I was like, hey, we're storming the Capitol. They can't stop us, whatever. And I'm talking about the protest because apparently they were holding people out of an area that they were supposed to be in. And now they've opened the barricades and they're letting people through. And I'm kind of conveying what's going on. And there's hundreds of people in front of us. Like, we're slowly making our way up there. And then we get to the base of the steps, and there's a little bit of a police line that forms at the base of the steps in front of the Columbus door. And then again, a supervisor comes over and waves people up the stairs. And so a whole bunch of people go up towards the Columbus doors, and they're just standing there up on the steps. And then right after this, me and Dad, we decided, hey, we're going to go up the steps, because I was like, hey, we could probably get some good shots from up there and like see what's going on. And shots, I'm talking about a camera, not a weapon, because that's, a lot of times what the DOJ is like, oh, well, what do you mean by that? And then, so we get up there to the right, and as soon as we get up there, it's at 2:04 p.m. I'll remember this time in history forever in my life, for January 6, 2021, or 2020, at 2:04, because Hunter Allen Imke, a known Antifa member from California, jumps up on the ledge to the right of the Columbus doors. There's a window right there, which leads into a series of offices that actually spill out onto the congressional floor, if you go into them. And he jumps up on this ledge and punches and starts kicking out this window. And I am videotaping. I am trying to get as much of this content on here, because this is just absolute craziness. Like, nobody else is behaving like this. Nobody else is doing anything. And the Capitol Police, they come out and they knock him to the ground with a riot shield, and they take him into custody. And I don't see an issue with this. His arrest, I have no problem with, because I was there. I witnessed it. I was able to see that, nothing happened to him. He was unprovoked. This was an action this individual made solely on the discretion that he was going to go up there and cause property damage and damage the Capitol building. And some of the other people took exception that were beside us on the porch, that they were like, hey, you're not, taking him with you. The one guy was like, if you try to take him, we're going to kill you, this type of thing. And it kind of made me mad, because I was like, hey, these guys are just doing their job. And so I started yelling at those guys that were up there. And, two of these men, I believe, were either federal agents or confidential human source provocateurs, because they were never arrested, despite the fact that two of them have been identified by a wonderful journalist by the name of Bobby Powell that was up there that day. And I told these guys, I was like, leave the cops alone. They're just doing their jobs. He's breaking the law. That's not the reason that we came here. And so that kind of calms everybody down. And then at this time is when the captain of the police officers that are on the porch comes up, and this is an officer by the name of Benjamin Fluke. whom has since been promoted since testifying against me at trial, by the way. And I mildly approached him and I asked him and I said, hey, like, how can we help you? And this man gives me a direct order that says, stay up here and take pictures of them. And he's indicating to people that are attacking them and attacking the building. So I took this seriously. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. I'm just talking, whatever. And then I decide I'm going to make a couple series of posts. And I'm like, can they hear us now? Can they hear us now? We're not going to go blindly into the night on this one. And then I make another post that the DOJ uses against me because I'm panning out towards the crowd and I'm showing, the thousands of people that are there in this protest. And I'm saying, I'm talking about the stolen election, saying, they're not going to get this one. And they were saying in that moment, right there, at that moment, as I am working with these police officers, following this order while my dad is talking to police officers, introducing me to them, and they are working with us, that I am saying that I know that I'm committing criminal activity, that I came there with the intent to stop the certification, and that I've done so knowingly and willfully as all of this is going on. And so we keep working with these police officers where I'm getting information out of the radio. I make a Facebook post that says, there are shots fired. There's a fire inside. Apparently people have entered the building. I'm trying to put out as much information as I can because cell service is down. So I can't really make a lot of videos to get them out. They have to be pretty short. And so at this time is when Ashley Babbitt is murdered. We hear some shots ring out. We can hear pop, pop. And one of the Capitol police officers approaches me and my dad because at this point, there were some other rowdier people that had come up. But again, none of these people have been arrested. They've never been identified for the ones that were on the porch. And they're being rowdy. Well, there's a police officer that the government refuses to identify in my case. There's actually 5 police officers that the government refuses to identify in my case. And that police officer approaches us and he says, hey, you guys should probably come over here. I think there's an active shooter down here from the radio broadcast that he got. And I have this on video now, by the way. The DOJ withheld this video evidence and classified it the highest classification that you can have for video evidence from the Capitol. And nothing even happened in it with the exception of us talking to the police and working with them. And he takes us and he moves us behind the police line. And at this point, Benjamin Fluke actually comes over, sees this happen, and then turns his back to us as we're behind the police wall. And then we're standing behind about 7 police officers over in the corner to the right side of that window. So at this point during the day is when the first injured police officer that we saw comes out. His face is covered in mace and he appears to have some kind of shoulder injury. Well, my dad he is a kinesiologist and has worked in, sports medicine and healthcare his entire life. I was a former, I'd gone to paramedic school. I have lots of medical training with everything. And we offered to help this individual. He needed some water. One of the guys that was standing next to me at the, just a random guy, I've never identified this man to be able to put him on the stand or anything like that. He gives the police officer some water. He rinses his face, his face and his eyes out. And that same Capitol police officer that came and got us and pulled us behind the line then says, hey, there's fixing to be a curfew put in place by Muriel Bowser. It just came over the radio. Thank you guys for everything that you've done. It would probably be a good idea for you to leave at this point because it's probably going to get nasty from here. So we were like, okay, yeah, no problem. And then finally we leave after this. And so the DOJ makes this whenever they talk about my case and they, talk about my active involvement of everything. They make it sound like I was there for an eternity when they're talking in court. We were on the porch for 38 minutes. That was the participation of the day at the Capitol. 38 minutes, never went in the building, never assaulted anyone, was protecting police officers on the East Porch, working with them to identify individuals who I still believe to this day are either federal informants, confidential human sources, or actually federal agents or assets. And I am ushering over to the front for 38 minutes. We leave. I decide I want to get up on one of the pillars and zoom into the doors of the Capitol to find out what is going on inside. And this is the first time that I see somebody engaged with a police officer there. And I leaned down. I told my dad, I was like, hey, we need to get out of here. it looks like it's already starting, whatever. So we go down the stairs, leave. I take some pictures of some blood that I see on the ground, back over, because I wanted to know what was going on at the bike area over by where we were at. And when I went over there, I look on the ground and there's blood, a significant amount of blood. So I took some pictures of it, and then we make our way back around the same way that we came from the Capitol. And I see Jacob Chansley over there. He's dressed up as the Shaman, the complete, notable, lovable character that we all know him today. And I take some pictures of him. I don't talk to him. I don't talk to anything. And then we make our way back around. Over
Did
to
you
the
know
west side.
him before that?
No, we didn't. Neither one of us.
That was the first time you'd ever seen him.
Yeah, it was the first time. He was just, it's just like one of those guys, like, hey, look at this guy. He looks cool. This is great. This is a
So the
great person.
only person you knew before was your dad, right? You didn't know anyone else that was there before
No,
this.
no. Like I couldn't have told you. I couldn't have told you the names of 5 people in the building, doing their jobs, and I couldn't have told you anybody else's name except my dad.
And then for you guys, the same question. Did you know anyone besides the people that you traveled with, like Sean, your mother, or anyone else?
No, it was just my mother and my buddy Rick.
So your mother and your friend, and that's
Yeah.
it. You didn't know David. You didn't know anyone else.
Absolutely not.
And David,
No, I didn't.
you had your brother and your nephew, and you said one of them was charged for having an American flag. You mentioned that.
My nephew was charged. He recently got arrested about 3 months ago, 4 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and about a week prior for me turning myself in, and they arrested him in San Antonio, Texas, and they showed him going through the Capitol with a flag, and he got a higher bond than me. They gave him a $15,000 bond, and they also charged him with having a weapon in the Capitol, which was the flagpole, and he was never seen using it in any other way
Other than as a
holding
flag
it.
holder.
That's it, just going through
It's
the
proper use.
proper use. That's it.
So what exactly were you charged with?
I was charged with assault, civil disorder, trespassing, entering and remaining in a restricted area.
Okay, and Sean,
It's kind of hard to remember, but
Okay.
basically,
when was your trial?
my trial.
You were arrested, you said, in May of 2020.
Yeah, it was in 2023.
Okay, so it's been a minute.
Yeah. So, but I had a 13-count indictment. That's it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there was like they hit me with the gambit.
And all misdemeanors for both of you, right?
No,
No,
felonies.
not you.
no.
Oh, okay.
I had misdemeanors and felonies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan, what were your charges?
So originally, I was one of the first people arrested. I was arrested February 4th, 2021. And when they first came to arrest me, I had a slew of charges as well, including because the FBI agent Michael D. Brown that was over my case, he lied in his paperwork, in his FBI 302 is what it's called. And I'm quoting here. This is a direct quote from Michael D. Brown. The actions of Mr. Zink led to violent entry into the Capitol, the assault of multiple police officers, and the death of a federal police officer. They put in their paperwork that I killed Brian Sicknick. That's
Wow.
exactly what he meant by that. And I was never even near the guy. I never saw the guy, anything. I tracked my steps the whole way around. So I think originally with what they were trying to pull, lying to the American public, I actually believed that they were going to try me for murder on that. And so then I had obstruction of an official proceeding. So by the time that everything went, I was looking at, 100+ years to life for whatever they were trying to charge me with first. And then it went down to like 80 years and then 47 years. And then finally they settled on like this, the obstruction of an official proceeding, the 1512 C2 that's so famous with the Fisher case. That's a 20-year felony. And then I had 5 misdemeanors at first. So it was like basically 2 civil disorderly conduct, knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds, picketing, parading, or demonstrating in a Capitol building, and then there was like one other charge. But by the time that I got to trial, I was only facing the 1512 and the knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds and disorderly conduct. And I was convicted of all three of those charges, and then later the 1512 was overturned.
So for you guys that are sitting here right now, I asked you earlier, what does it feel like to be free? Like 48 hours ago, locked up, not sure what was going to happen, and today you sit here free to go where you want to go and do what you want to do. How do you?
I feel like it's a dream, from one day to the next. Yesterday, I was in a rec yard. I was in a cold, rough environment, uh, closed within walls, razor wire, and then I got a call. My name was called. Pack up your stuff. You're going R&D, which is fingerprinting and release. And I already knew as soon as that happened, I knew that it was the pardon.
That it was
And
Trump.
yeah, so I just took my envelopes. I gave all my stuff. I just handed it out to people I knew there and walked out. And then there was, right there waiting in the room, right there was um, Zinc was there. And there was another J6er right there. And, we were shocked. And I told him, hey, it looks like this is a dream, isn't it? He's like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. But the warden was in shock. He had looked at me and he says, you know what? In all my years, I have never seen anything like this. I can't believe it happened so fast. And lieutenants, they were talking within each other and they were saying, look how quick it worked. They looked like they were happy for us.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you think maybe because it was the president of the United States that pardoned you, that it happened that fast?
yeah, it had to be because it was a holiday, and in fact, the warden, his hair was messed up. He looked like he was pulled out of bed.
Yeah, they had to call
And
people
so
in.
and so were the workers. They
Makes
came
sense.
to
That the important people were off
yeah,
yesterday,
they,
right?
they had some clerks right there. Their hair up. They weren't even in their uniforms, and they were right there getting our paperwork
Processing
ready,
it.
processing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was historical. Even with a BOP, they were shocked, and I was proud of my president for getting me out of there as he promised.
Yeah.
How were you when you came out?
Oh, well, I'm still getting acclimated. Being locked in a box for 4 years is overwhelming, and after I talked to my mother and she's just reiterating that, I'm free, and she's crying and the emotions were overwhelming. I got sick. It's can't explain it. It just is really overwhelming.
So they brought you out. They brought you out. They did your paperwork.
Yeah.
And then you knew then you were free.
Oh, I knew I was getting out.
Oh.
I knew Trump would do it.
Yeah.
He called into the vigil. Mama Mickey would have a vigil outside for us, outside the DC jail.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump ended up calling in one day and he said, you guys hang in there. As soon as I'm back, I'll take care of you. And it gave me hope. That's really what I was like, okay, this man loves us. This man loves his country. And it gave me hope. And he fought for us. He took a bullet, stood up,
Yep.
and he kept going. So, but yeah, it's really overwhelming. I think that there's something hiding around the corner, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm still getting acclimated, but I knew it would happen, and I'm glad that it went the way it did because it didn't take over the mainstream media, and it was just business as usual for him.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was really amazing.
Yeah, but when you were in there for 4 years, you kind of give up hope after a little while, don't you? It's like, even though eventually you're going to be, or you're going to, you're going to be let out. I mean, 4 years is a long time.
It's like it makes you numb to the things that you shouldn't be numb to. And
wow.
So a light switched on though when I heard Trump say it. Yes, 1,500, all of them. Yep. And I was, full and complete pardon. I was like, yeah. It turned on,
Right.
and a part of me lit up that hadn't been lit in a long time. So, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. We all love you.
Yeah, I think I just what you guys have been through, thank you for going down there to, I didn't have the funds in 21 to go down there, and I would have liked to have gone, of course, not knowing what was going to happen. And
I
those of you
probably would
who
have
did
been just
that,
like
you were there representing all of us who felt that there was huge miscarriage of justice, and then what happened to you guys was horrible. I think of your children, being dragged out with guns pointed at them, and the trauma that they went through, and missing their father. And for you, I think of your mother. If I saw my son mistreated, horribly mistreated, and such a gross miscarriage of justice, I'm for your mother, I feel so thankful. I can't wait for you guys to go home to your families and be able to hold them and be free. And like you said, thank you, President Trump and Ryan. Like I said, we prayed for you by name, and I know that you mentioned earlier, someone just got their appeal was had an appeal, and they got their conviction overturned, and this is all isn't over.
That's unbelievable.
And so yeah, our first, like you said, our first win for the J6ers.
see,
So,
and
thank you guys for fighting this fight for us. And
It had to
Yes,
happen
it
to
had
wake the
to.
American
Yeah.
people up,
really did.
and
Yeah,
I
it
wouldn't
did.
change a thing.
I feel like
Mhm.
2020 had to happen.
know,
The election had to be stolen because
Mhm.
things are so much different with Trump
It,
president today than it would have been if Trump was president 4 years
it
ago.
woke people up,
well, and
definitely.
I
I
don't
wouldn't.
think
were
I
that,
wouldn't
asleep.
change a thing. Sorry.
I wouldn't
I
either.
would tell Ashley Babbitt not to go in.
Mm.
I feel guilty partly by getting people to go there.
Mhm.
So I might change that, to be honest. But
But not your journey as far as
right,
like what you had to go
right.
through.
And 4 people died that day: Roseanne Boylan, Ashley Babbitt, Kevin Greasom, Benjamin Phillips, and we should all remember
Yeah.
them and remember their names.
Well,
And you guys will get together
and
someday, right?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Because you're like a band of brothers now.
yes, man.
absolutely.
It's
And
right.
sis, how many women were arrested? With a lot
there's
of
a
women.
lot of women. Yeah, there's a website actually
lot.
that has all the names. It's called the AmericanGulag.org.
Oh,
If you look at that, it has every J6er, what they were. If you look at that website, you'll find there's several. There's about a few dozen women there as
wow!
well. But
Someday they should come together and use a tribunal to try those people went after you.
yes, I'm angry about that, and my wife is angry as well. And we're gonna proceed with some lawsuits. We're gonna expose them. We have some video. We had surveillance
Same.
video around our home, which they tried to destroy all of them. But they forgot one camera with them putting the guns at my family, at my kids, and then we
Wow.
have that at their.
That's sick.
We're gonna expose them. And to me, it was if it took this suffering, to me it was worth it. If it took this to wake up people, the cold indifference that we've experienced from our society, that they don't care.
It's like they weaponized the DOJ,
It
and
was
they did it
weaponized.
against Trump, and they did it against you.
Yeah.
That is bad, and I'm glad Trump is president, and maybe he'll put an end to this lawlessness, because that's what it is.
Ryan, how's
We're-
today
Yeah.
different for you?
Well, I think for me, there's a lot of significance for this for today, because I was out at the prisons last night. I was I was doing I did a 26 and a half hour day yesterday. I got up at like 4:30 in the morning, drove to Fort Worth to the men's prison, wound up getting 2 J6ers out of there, took one of them back to Abilene, and then I finally got back to Lubbock this afternoon. And it strikes me that the pardons come on Martin Luther King Day, because a lot of people know about his famous speech, a famous letter that he wrote from, the Birmingham jail. And, that is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And Martin Luther King Day, as proclaimed right now, is considered to be a day on, not a day off. And so whenever you look at what Donald Trump did, for me, for my story, this was 1,447 days. And the 47th president of the United States stood by his word, promises made, promises kept, and he has restored me and my family. And I believe that right now that God is moving once again in this country, and I fully believe that the Holy Spirit is moving, and I believe that there was a lot of sacrifice that came from this event because yeah, it's just as he was talking about a minute ago, Ashley Babbitt, Ben Phillips, Kevin Greason, Roseanne Boylan, Matthew Perna taking his life later. These are people that lost everything. And, even despite the things that have happened to me and, going to prison, I only went to prison for 90 days. I'm one of the lucky ones. And, I got to be here with my wife and my beautiful daughter. And, when I picked her up today, because I got my pardon away from my family, trying to get these other guys out. And the look on their faces, when they walk out the door, they have no idea who we are, but we're, to see the support, of this community, of the friends that I've made through all of this, the guys that I was in prison with, Trennis Evans and Tommy and, Roger Roots, my attorney, and all these people. It just shows me that the founding fathers were absolutely correct.
A
When the
politician
American
like
spirit
you.
cannot be crushed. And it just, the support of my family and the few friends that retain themselves, it's absolutely surreal.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Donald Trump and JD Vance and all of the congressmen and women who are out there. Eli Crane is standing outside of the gulag right now with U.S. Marshals working to get stuff done. And we still have J6ers that are not out.
Right.
Texas. So I mean, like here in the state of Texas and Florida, we have people that are still in jail because of probation violations that stem from a presidential pardon that's now fruit of the rotten tree. And these last remaining scumbag remnants of the Biden DOJ are holding these people hostage when they've been given a direct order. And we have a lot of work to do.
We
And
do.
I
We have
think
a
that
lot
the
of work to
first
do.
step-
We will continue praying for them. And if you guys want to know more, you can reach out to us and we can provide you with information. Well, again, was that website you said, American Gulag?
AmericanGulag.org.
Okay, that's a website that you can go to, I know, to get more information if you wanted to pray for people specifically by name, or I'm sure there's going to be like GoFundMe's and stuff. We will be sharing all of that information to help people get back on their feet. And like Trump said, it's the beginning of a new era.
The realj6.com and wearegoodmen.com. Well,
There you go. So it's 3 great websites for you guys to go to get more information, to help people specifically, to pray for people. Thank you for watching. We'll try and have maybe see if we can zoom these guys in again so we have more to talk
Update,
about.
yeah.
Well, we'd like to follow you on your journey as you
Great.
get back to life, guys.
Well, thanks for
Thank
having
you
me
for
here.
joining
Thanks
us.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.